Welcome, welcome. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. I think we're just going to dive right in. I think intros would be good. My name is Kate Irwin. I write The Drop. It's a newsletter covering all things consumer crypto, including the app layer for Blockworks. And I'd like to give it over to Andrea. Quick intro, that would be great. And yeah.
Yes. Hey, everyone. My name is Andrea. For those of you who were here last night, I was also the MC of the event. But today, Jacob is superseding my performance and being awesome. I'm a CPO at Story, working on all the product side, and I'll keep it short so we can get right into the panel. Hand it over to you.
Cool. Hey guys, I'm Jay, or Jamin. I'm the co-founder and president at Magic Labs. We're known for pioneering embedded wallets. We started in 2018, so it's been about 7.5 years since we started, and we see a clear opportunity and biggest TAM with AI, and we see a clear need for a trust layer, so that's why we built Newton Protocol, and we'll get into that more later.
Hey, great to meet everybody. My name is Alan Du. I'm a partner at PayPal Ventures, which is part of PayPal. We invest across both core fintech, but also AI infra and Web3 across early stages. And we're also a proud investor in Magic Labs. So great to share a stage with Jamin today.
So I think maybe let's open things up a little bit to start with kind of a macro question. How would you describe the current AI landscape that we're in?
I just found the mic.
You stole my mic. Okay. Do we want to go in reverse order?
Yeah, you can just jump in if you have
Right.
thoughts.
I guess I'm going first. State of AI, I would say, one, you're beginning to see infrastructure cost coming way down, right? The cost of compute is coming way down. Software is getting built at lightning speed. And I think some people have predicted quite aggressively that software will become essentially free. And which brings me to an interesting topic where I think IP is going to be the core thing for which you can still monetize value. Meaning that if compute is nearly free, software is nearly free, then what else can you really charge for, right? And at the end of the day, it's probably your proprietary data. So how do you take that data, productize it, monetize it, and be able to trace the usage, not just across one interaction, but a series of interactions, is going to be really important. But I would say when it comes to agentic commerce, and I actually gave a talk yesterday on this topic as well, we're still in the early innings. In the last 12 months or so, you've seen large players across core payment processors like PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, all the way through to players like Coinbase. They've all announced various forms of agent-to-agent payment protocols or MCP servers. But the truth is, the real volume going through these kind of MCP servers is still nearly zero, right? It's largely experimental. So I think there's still a lot of infrastructure building that needs to happen, a lot of, I would say, ecosystem that needs to be built around that in order for agentic commerce to truly scale.
Yeah, for me, I can speak more from the on-chain, DeFi, or more like the DGen world. I would say last year when we saw a crazy boom with AI, I think that was more just like a new trend and the meta that we saw. When it came to actually like seeing the substance and real product built behind, I would say it was not there. But definitely like the last 6 months, us included, I'm starting to see a lot of developers in AI really tackling it from like the fundamentals and a substantial point of view. So couple examples that I've seen, it's mostly around DeFi when it comes to, I guess, automating, and even before automation, it's more about convenience. It's not really about can the AI agent perform better than these quants or these other like sophisticated traders. I'm not seeing that yet, but I'm very hopeful as we have more developers and as we see more innovation in AI, like maybe, I can't really say the number, but maybe within a year or two, we see a lot more development there and see how AI agents can actually beat these quant traders, et cetera.
Yeah. So I agree with Alan, right? I think we need a lot more infrastructure, but just for the sake of discussion, I'm going to disagree with you. and say that I also think that we're at a point where we can't fully trust agents yet, because most agents are just wrappers around foundation models. And even though it's nice to think that you can just tell it, make me $1 billion app, make no mistakes, right? That's not how it works. And so where we're seeing agents being used the most in real industry is for very specific use cases with very specific models powering them, right? Whether it's negotiating specific contracts or DocuSign, using it to extract contract clauses to facilitate reading contracts. I know it's being used in like the like the shipment industry to help find the best contracts. Definitely used in crypto in degen ways to find, but those are very scoped areas that don't leave too much room for error or too much room for improvisation, which we don't really want to leave to agents yet to do. I think and I'm fully aligned with Alan and Jay here that it really is like as the infrastructure evolves, as the models get a lot more specific and a lot more dependable, then we'll see commerce be more and more offloaded to agents, going forward. So we're definitely in the early innings, as Alan said.
And Alan, I'd be curious to also get your perspective on where you see the AI funding landscape right now, and maybe how it's changed recently, and where you think it might go from here.
I would say, I'll set aside the massive amount of dollars that have flown into data center build, right? So I'll set aside the physical infrastructure of it. But we've seen a lot of massive rounds being raised for late stage application companies, right? Harvey's of the world have all announced just mega rounds. But also, I would say right now, a lot of attention has been shifted toward more the AI infra side of things, meaning that things like model efficiency, model security, because people are beginning to quickly realize when it comes to AI application layer, there's really no moat outside of your distribution, outside of your know-how, your vertical expertise. Because, like I mentioned earlier, it's so easy to build something now, right? Throw it over to Replit, throw it over to Lovable, and be able to crank it out and scale it relatively easily with a relatively small team. I'll give you one data point. In the last 6 months, I've met more companies that have reached $10 million in annualized revenue in under 6 months than I've ever met in my entire VC career combined. Now, that's the speed with which applications are being built and being scaled. Now, that also means VCs are beginning to turn their attention to other things that could potentially produce a little bit more technical moat, right, when it comes to things that are a lot harder to replicate. So you're beginning to see even dollars being diverted toward chips, for example, right? So when you think about vertically integrated AI, you cannot be vertically integrated until you control things at a silicon level, all the way up to the applications. So I think the VC funding has been really spread out, starting in the early years with the application-centric kind of investment focus, but now to every single layer.
Obviously, licensing and merchandising is a huge part of why we're all here today. And in seeing it come on chain, it's such a massive multi-billion-dollar industry. So I'm curious also, what does coding licensing terms into digital assets look like? Andrea, maybe this is a question for you.
Yeah. So if we want agents to be able to do things, and we agree that as things get more and more commoditized, IP is really the only thing left for agents to transact on, right? Especially amongst each others, then they need to be able to autonomously and dependably license each other's skills, license each other's abilities, license each other's content, right? So I see a future, and I'll get back to the question, but I see a future where, we're going to start going from agents that are just calling ChatGPT or calling Gemini or calling Anthropic to much more varied models that are trained on proprietary data, meaning they are not a copy and paste of each other, right? It's not just a prompt away, but you actually need to do the hard work of building your own model. And once you have this differentiation and you have this agent that can do something that no one else can, or with the reliability that no one else can, other agents will need to depend on it for that specific task, right? And this is where it starts to get into the licensing. And so at Story, we wrote a paper a year ago called Agent TCP/IP, which is trying to apply the concept of TCP/IP for the internet, which is how you communicate with the server, to agent-to-agent licensing transactions. And so if you codify the license transactions and the license parameters that every agent can use and every agent understands, and it's very easy to, on the fly, generate a contract and generate an agreement, and it will, yeah, because licensing is such a human, slow process at the moment that it needs to happen automatically, it needs to happen programmatically, and that's why, you know, it makes sense for it to happen on Story so that it can happen programmatically. And I can get into more of the details, but I think for the sake of this panel, you know, we can keep it high level.
Yeah, so I think like why are institutional investors paying attention to programmable licensing and this space?
Why they are or why they aren't?
Why they are they?
They are.
We are.
Yeah, good. No, they absolutely are. If you've been watching since this morning, you've seen that more and more IP is coming on chain, right? Whether it's the top anime in the world, Solo Leveling, whether it's the top IP funds in the world like Barunsun. Everyone is realizing that tokenizing IP is the first step towards making it more available, towards making it more liquid, and also making it more accessible to others to transact on, to remix, to create derivatives. And this same concept applies to agents, right? Because if agents are able to do the same thing, other agents can come and in a peer-to-peer way can coordinate amongst themselves to, okay, you're an expert trader, let me license your algorithm to improve my degen skills. Or, you're an expert at finding the best deals for raw materials, right? I need a special shipment for this specific client. Can you help me coordinate copper, uranium, and something else? There's so many potential use cases, and that skill is something that you can either transact and pay to have, or you can license, right? You can, for example, you could license agents' outputs like images, like content generation. It really is infinite when it comes to possibilities.
Just to add on, I would say when it comes to, I like to talk about convenience and how much like optimization that AI can enable, and also the cost as well. So I think when it comes to the institution, again, I'm more from the on-chain world, but the TAM and like the size that they deal with, it's huge, right? And even like the minimal cost that they can save, that's still like a huge percentage, like what can be saved for them. So from the cost point of view, optimization point of view, and efficiency, I think that's what institutions care about a lot as well. So I think that's one angle that they probably take as well.
And obviously in crypto, a big challenge for consumer adoption and mass adoption and fans who are going to enjoy this IP. A big challenge has been the user experience and the UX design across the industry. But in the past 4 years, I feel like we've seen massive changes and improvements to the UX experience. And that's sort of all a part of making crypto easier to use. And so, Jamin, I'd be curious to hear from your perspective, in the wallet landscape or beyond, where do you see AI making things easier, maybe AI agents or other types of AI tools?
Yeah, AI, I think that definitely changed the paradigm, and I mean, it will change the paradigm. I'll first go over the history of like the abstraction. So when we started in 2018, at that time there was only MetaMask and these like third-party wallets where you have to like learn how to like use an extension, like download and manage your seed phrase securely. There's a lot for you to do just to set up a wallet, and then now learn how to exactly like get started on using these dApps. And what we came up at the time was, is there like an easy way to help people log in? It could be just an email login, like social login, like phone number login. So we built that, and then we made it real easy for users to be able to log in and not have to manage a seed phrase as well. So we call that wallet abstraction. And then now, I would say when it comes to AI, Yeah, when it comes to AI, like we enabled app abstraction. What that means is we see a world where users don't have to manage or don't have to interact with the UI. They can literally just give prompts to an AI, and then they can handle everything on behalf of them. And for that to be enabled, though, there needs to be like a very easy security layer, trust layer, so that AI agents can't just go rogue. And they need to be able to follow rules and make sure that, they exactly do what like humans intend to do, right? So that's the world that we see.
I have a hot take if I can just,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
totally agree with you, but my hot take is that crypto is much better suited for AI agents than for humans, right? Because they can, all of the reasons why friction is there for humans is not there for AI agents. So we definitely need everything you guys are building for humans, but yeah, the good thing about AI agents is that they can deal with as much complexity as they need to, and manage 10 different chains at once, meaning you can transact on multiple chains, but then there's still going to need to be ease of onboarding for humans to not only check the work or check what's happening, but also to interact with what the agent is doing. So I think it's definitely complementary, but I do think that people are saying, will agents ever truly lean on crypto? I think it's the best place for them.
That actually, I'll pile on here. I think for agents, when we're talking about the context of agentic commerce, in the traditional sense, commerce is when we go online to buy a pair of Nike shoes, right? Air Jordans, whatnot. Generally, that's pretty easily accomplishable, right? You have an MCP server set up, essentially the identity is resolved and the trust is established between Nike.com and, say, PayPal, right? But the thing is, when that agent needs to go out into the wild world, the wider universe, to find a list of items from other agents or other stores that are unknown, with an unknown identity, how do you then establish that trust? You can't, right? And this is where I think a crypto wallet, some kind of a wallet-based solution, is absolutely critical and needed. And it's the only viable solution for agents to identify themselves. But going back to the concept of programmability, it's not just enough to actually identify your agent and to be able to authenticate your agents, but also be able to authenticate what the agents are doing, right? And this is where the programmability becomes so critical. And you cannot accomplish that with traditional payment rails. Traditional identity infrastructure just do not work for agentic commerce. And one last thing I want to mention is that this is where I think story fascinates me, is that as you get into the more of the IP monetization, you begin to get into sort of the micro transactions, right? You begin to get into the streaming payments. Again, traditional rails like credit card systems, like the ACH rails that we use in the US, do not work for that, right? So again, I think my point is, this is not one of these solutions. This is the solution.
One thing I want to add to what you said, I talked about the human to crypto. And I think when it comes to crypto, I mean, it's agent to agent, that's like the agent to agent coordination that I see as a separate space. I totally agree with you that that is what really, like crypto is built for like agents, like AI. I totally get that. But still, like there needs to be like directions that need to come from humans first. And that's the first thing that I still think needs to be solved today. But when it comes to agent coordination, that space just opens up so many more opportunities and so many more possibilities. And how we think about AI and this coordination between the AI from our perspective is like it's really important to tackle it from a security point of view as well. Like when we built embedded wallets, it wasn't used by developers like how people use it today. Like we built it like 2 to 3 years ahead of time because we saw there was like a clear need for it. But at the same time, we want to tackle it like very thoroughly because security is very important. And yeah, they just can't lose their funds, right? So from agent perspective, now we see there's a clear need for like a policy engine that allows agents to be able to speak to each other in more like a rule like type of language. Of course, when it comes to actually performing tasks, there's that part of language. But when agent and agent are performing tasks on behalf of human or on behalf of the super agent and agents, there needs to be like a policy that is able to be followed and kind of spoken as like a universal language. So I believe tackling it all from security point of view as well is really important.
And you brought up something interesting, this sort of idea that we need a policy to make sure that they adhere to the parameters that are being set. I mean, I think a lot of people think about AI and they might think about, hallucinations and the challenges that might pose. And I'd be curious to get your thoughts, or Andrea, your thoughts on how maybe story is tackling hallucinations and looking at that core challenge.
Yeah, I think as Swai said this morning, compute is commoditized, mostly, and models are very head-to-head, right? Big models are very much head-to-head. So really the biggest differentiating factor is what data you use to train models. Because a lot of people are fans of synthetic data, which means data generated by AI to train AI. The problem with synthetic data is that you have drift, right? The more you train on synthetic data, the more the bias in the synthetic data starts to slowly drift away from the ground truth. So being able to access accurate and continuously accurate data is the best way to ground a model, right? And when you have an accurate model, that's when you can start addressing the issues that you brought up, right? You can have much more dependable outcomes. You can have much more dependable inference. You can start to trust it more because you know that it has covered almost every possible real world use case. And so at Story, for example, we incubated Poseidon, which you may have heard a lot about. And one of the first focus areas of Poseidon, by the way, is a DPIN app and a much more than a DPIN app, but for now it's starting as a DPIN app, is started with audio, right? And sourcing audio samples from all over the world in every possible language. And in 2 weeks, gathered more than 5 million voice submissions, right? That's better and more hours than the top voice data sets in the world, right? So with the power of the right crypto incentives and the right structures, you can start to generate enough data to truly create much more dependable models. And when you have dependable models, you solve the issues of hallucinations, you solve the issues of data being or outputs being less dependable. So I really think it's all about the data and making sure that there's a sustainable way to source that data.
Yeah. On top of that, the way I look at it is AI is probabilistic in nature, so it can have many different outputs. And what blockchain comes in to solve that is it's deterministic. So how do you tie all these actions to a deterministic output? Because blockchain is immutable, right? And then it's able to, using ZK, you're able to generate a verifiable proof. So how do you make sure you tie that? And the way we see it is when it comes to evaluating that on-chain, it's very expensive. So how do you make sure that evaluation of what this can be done or not, how can that be done off-chain? So I think that distinguishing is very important as well. And how we're looking at it is we're building AVS with EigenLayer, and that's going to be that's responsible for pretty much creating the verifiable proofs and making sure that this can be done or not, right? And then at the on-chain layer, you got to make sure the AI agents are able to, check that and then see if they can actually do the work or not. But it's really black or white, as in when it comes to deterministic, it's very simple. But how tying that from off-chain to deterministic level, I would say that's very important as well.
And once you can actually do the evaluation, then what you do based on chains, you can actually build essentially the equivalent of a credit history for agents, right? You can actually verify its performance against the desired outcome and be able to build essentially the FICO score for agents. And that way you have somewhat of a longitudinal data of how the agents have performed in the past, how reliable they are. And if that actually creates in turn a lot more opportunities, think agent insurance, right? So Munich Re, which is I think the largest reinsurance company in the world, just wrote their very first agent insurance policy this year, right? And we're only beginning to see more and more of that. And the insurance policies won't be able to get priced correctly unless you have that longitudinal data of agent performance against deterministic, more sort of the desired outcome. Now, and that can only be achieved on-chain.
Going off of that, like, do we think that we're headed toward a future where AI agents have legal personhood or can become accredited investors or investment advisors or hold certain status marks that we associate with trust in our current economic system?
I think I won't comment on the legal personhood.
I will.
Okay, no. Sure. But I do think the trust is an important concept. There's an annoying little concept in the traditional payment world coming from PayPal called chargeback, right? It's a very annoying thing. It's basically when a charge appears on your credit card statement and you say, oh, I never bought that, right? So that you get into this dispute, arbitration with the merchant, right? And it gets really, really messy. Now, that's a two-party conversation. However, when you introduce an agent in the middle, now it becomes a three-party conversation. So who's really at fault? Did the agent hallucinate and cause you to mistakenly purchase that pair of shoes? Or did you just point the finger and try to kind of like blame the dog, right? Like my dog ate my homework type of situation. So to be able to have some kind of technology solution that allows you to attribute responsibility and hold each entity accountable is going to be absolutely critical. Then we can begin to talk about, actual personhood, whether they hold legal status.
I think in the crypto world, there's a way to solve it. Obviously, POS staking, that's like a very popular consensus system, right? And then when it comes to collateral, like there's MakerDAO and these other protocols where like if you go down like a certain ratio, then you'll be liquidated. So there's penalties that are built around like on-chain. So one way where I could see AI agents when they're involved in these disputes, if they were to be already in a system where there's collateral that's already part of the system, right? Or if there's some slashing mechanism that's built around it, I think that's a way to kind of solve this three-party problem. But yeah, I'm not sure about the Web 2 world.
Yeah, before I comment on the legal side, I think when it comes to attribution of fault, it really depends on how much autonomy the agent is given and how much inability to supervise the agent the human has, right? As long as humans are always in the loop, they're always going to be responsible. But I was speaking with Sriram yesterday from Eigenlayer, and he was talking about a pretty fascinating concept called unstoppable agents. Did he talk to you about that?
No, either.
So basically, they're thinking about using AVSs to run agents in a way that is unstoppable. Meaning that once you fund it with money, that agent will keep running until it runs out of money, right? And so from the moment you set it off, you have no input anymore. It's trusted execution, and that's it. And so there you could start to argue, since I can't control it anymore, whatever it does, I gave it the initial prompt, but then it started doing its own things, right? It started developing its own strategies, it started to do its own transactions, and I think that's where it can start to get interesting of saying, okay, whatever happens is either the agent's fault or the model's fault, right? And there we start to have a fourth party, which is who created the model that is powering the agent. From the legal side, I think this is a very top-of-mind topic. After I published the paper on agent TCP/IP, I actually started to work with a lot of with a couple universities, Oxford, the main one being Oxford, and the main researcher there told me that he's involved with several government work streams around legal personhood for AI agents. So I think the governments are already working on it. It's just going to take, as governments do, they take a while to make sure that there's a lot of consensus and a lot of research done. But yeah, I think that is going to be a very top-of-mind topic, but it also reinforces how important crypto is. Because with crypto, anything can have a wallet, not just anyone, right? Anyone can have the sovereignty to transact, anyone can have the sovereignty, or anything can have the sovereignty to act on its own accord. And that's what makes it even better for agents, as we were talking about earlier. Like it's the perfect home for AI. But yeah, I'll stop here. Yeah,
I think bigger picture too, what verticals are moving fastest toward adoption in the IP space and where it meets crypto?
In the IP space, definitely the content creation, right? I think probably I would guess most of the multi-million projects that, you said that you have come across more 8 to 9 figure generating projects in the last couple of years than in your whole career. I would bet that a lot of those are focused on content creation, or at least using AI to generate some form of output. Yeah. At least as it pertains to IP, right? Like I think there's an explosion of using AI to generate IP, right? Or to adapt IP. We saw it with Studio Ghibli. Everyone went crazy and started to generate its own, right? And I think that will never stop. People will always want to create. It's part of human nature. And now it's being more and more democratized. So I think creation is definitely going to be the most important aspect. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts.
I think content creation is number one. I get that. But also, I think, like when it comes to IP, I'm more from the tech background, so I'm also interested to see like how these like patents and inventions are tied to IP as well. It's not the space that I'm definitely not an expert in, but I think the IP space is really huge. Maybe that's like another vertical that like maybe technologists look at.
I would say where I've seen a lot of activities, I wouldn't call it adoption just yet, but activities is around this agentic finance, right, which is very relevant to what Magic Labs is working on, where you're essentially taking a very smart robo-advisor doing yield optimization, right? Once you get paid, you can automatically put your earnings toward the highest yielding, whether it's stablecoin or some form of savings account. But then that creates another problem, which is how do you get agents to complete payments, to make payments? Because automatically when you're thinking about agentic finance, the agent needs to be able to transact and make payments, right? So a lot of startups have been focusing their effort on allowing agents to maintain sort of an AI native identity, allowing agents to be able to have programmable, preset rules for engagement, for making transactions. And that's one category that's been extremely active.
And I guess really core to what IP is, a lot of it is art. And I think there's been a lot of concern from many artists about how AI might impact their future. I think across film, gaming, many different mediums, and even journalism. I think maybe the question for you, Andrea, is like, how do we get our artists to be a little less afraid of this AI world that we're living in, and how should they navigate it?
So we work with a company that's building, that integrated with Story, is called Magma, and they have 3 million artists, right? It's like a Figma-like tool, but for painters. And so they said that their user base, which is made up of artists, is very polarized. As you said, most of the user base is against AI because it feels like it's a threat. But the other side is it's just a tool, so it can help me create better or more art, right? I think where both sides agree is knowing when AI is involved, right? Is being able to say, oh, this was 100% human generated versus this is AI assisted. And so having ways to track and to attribute how much of any output that we come across on the internet, right? Whether it's a Reddit comment, whether it's a painting, whether it's a video, how much of that is real versus, AI assisted, or even the word real is definitely like a philosophical black hole, but, right, again, like I think as long as we have the right attribution, I think people who hate it can avoid it, people who love it can adopt it and embrace it, but neither is felt threatened because they know what they're looking at. Right? I think where the real fear comes from is permanently blurring those lines and not being able to tell anymore what is human and what is not.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.